You are listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Christy Macero and Sheila Maychek.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 2 of Spilling the Tea. We are your hosts, Christy Macero and Sheila Maychek.
Hello.
Today is a special episode, and you can always tell this because we don't just have another agent with us, do we, Sheila?
No.
No. We do, however, have everyday man Jeremy Pugh here to represent a typical party to a real estate transaction. That's right. We're choosing just to subject Sir Jeremy to the horrific nightmares of real estate.
Ooh.
Oh.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, not
Welcome.
really. You're going to regret it.
Hey.
Today we have a special topic. When the worst happens in real estate. The worst happens in real estate. Now, we know things aren't always a life or death situation in real estate. Okay. My husband's a first responder. We always get asked, what's it like, the two of you being on call? Well, there's nothing that important in real estate where I would need to respond to a situation so quickly that it's a life or death situation.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
calling someone else at that point.
We're calling somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
So nothing like that. But anytime that you're dealing with humans and you're dealing with a transaction, there is a 0.001% of everything just going absolutely friggin' sideways.
Yes.
You know it, right? Jerry, you know it.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, you know it. Anytime you're dealing with
Absolutely.
humans, there is the potential for everything to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about that. And in real estate, this is the crazy part about it. It's not death.
Yeah, you might be thinking okay, it's when somebody during a
Dies.
sale passes away or part of a buyer, two people buying and someone passed away. You're like, that must be the worst.
And that's actually a very easy problem to solve. That's written out very easily for people to follow. That's
Yeah.
contract law.
It's
Prescribed, here's what's here's what will happen next.
it's like this has happened.
Yeah.
We figured out what to do in this situation.
Yeah.
Totally. Because that happens, unfortunately. It's the way life goes.
Mm-hmm.
But when people are alive,
When-
that's where the real wild cards
That's a
happen.
big problem.
That's where the big problems are. So in this situation,
Messing around people.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna discuss what happens when a contract does not complete, and we're gonna talk about that in detail. What does it really mean when a contract doesn't complete? And to make it as clear as day, it's when a buyer or a seller, basically a party to the contract, chooses not to sign closing documents at the lawyer. They can't pay for the home. They don't pay for the home. Nobody moves. Okay, so let's think about that for a second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you can just choose to not sign
Well,
without.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
yeah.
So I want you to picture this for a second. You're a homeowner.
Yeah.
You hire a realtor. You get your house ready for sale. You have it on the market for weeks. You do showings. You finally get a contract. You finally get it accepted. There's an inspection. You negotiate. You got everything ready to go. It's 60 days down the road, maybe 90 days down the road. You've already purchased another house.
Everything's done.
Everything's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a phone call. And you're told everything that you planned and put in place and did isn't going to happen anymore.
I feel like my reaction would be similar to what I'm feeling right now, where I'm just like, wouldn't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get into that because it's like, hey, nah, it's just not going to get across the finish line.
Yep.
Now, if there's realtors that listen to this, you may want to throw up in your mouths a little bit. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to put this in everyday terms. I don't know if you're listening and you're a dentist or a homemaker or a teacher or we got a lot of police officers. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know what that would feel like. But just imagine that everything that you try to accomplish in a transaction, suddenly that all vanishes and gets taken away.
Yeah.
The deal doesn't complete. The deal does not come together. If you ever bought and sold a home, just imagine that on completion day, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Everything you just did, boom, gone.
You're ready to go. Your movers are booked. You've handed over a deposit check. That money's out of your account. you've picked out furniture for your new kids' room. You're ready to go.
So we're going to get into that today. We're going to get into the specifics, but before that, we're going to talk to Sheila, as we always do when we start off. So Jeremy, we'll just give you a little break here.
All right.
Sheila, how important is it to go over what can go wrong when you sit down initially with your clients?
Super important, because you will always want to lightly touch and kind of give even some like rough examples, because when it's down on the contract, it can be really wordy in legal jargon, and you kind of want to bring it to their attention, like, hey, here's what this would look like. Here's an example of what could happen on this situation. But you don't go into too much detail.
No, I always feel like a total psychopath when I'm going over the contract, because I'm like, here's what happens if you die. Here's what happens if one of you guys get hit by a bus. Here's what happens when you want to fire me. Or here's what happens if you decide to cook methamphetamine on the countertops. Like, I go into it and I try to make it as entertaining as I can when I go through it, because they got to know what happens if the bad things happen. I think that's more important. Like, if I just point out the good things, like, I'm going to take photos of your home.
We're going to put a sign out front.
We're going to show it.
Yep.
We're going to move. Like, no, like, you got to know what's going to happen if, like, shit hits the fan, basically.
Totally.
Okay. And part of my core value is protection, right? And we're going to get into this a little bit later, but like, you want to protect people. And I want to make sure that they know that like anything bad that happens, like I got the answer, I got the solution, and I know what can go wrong.
Right.
So Sheila, how many agents do you think do that when they're going over the contract?
I would hope all of them. That being said, I don't know if everybody goes over that section in as much detail as they should, or even brings it up while going over the paperwork.
Yeah. Because, like, we're talking about the worst case scenario in real estate. Like, and it's weird when, like, death in a contract isn't the worst thing.
Right.
That's the weirdest part. Okay. So we're pretty heavily involved in our office, and we hear a lot of things. Sheila, how often do we hear about properties not actually going to completion?
It's crazy, because when we tell people this almost never happens, it's true. Like, it almost never happens. I remember trying to ask people, like, hey, have you ever come across this? And nobody could tell me that, oh, yeah, and here's what I did. It was, oh, I think someone I knew dealt with that maybe about 10 years ago. Like, that's how rare it was in an office of this many people doing this volume of transactions. It was like, oh, no, that's really bad, and we don't know what to do about that.
Yeah. So, of course, you know,
Which doesn't make you feel better.
it doesn't make you feel better. And we're going to also get into that, because it's like, yeah, this isn't great. Yeah, it's just really tough. So when I sit down with my clients and go over paperwork, I like to go over the bad things. And I always have the same lines that I use. And if you've ever sat down with me, you'd hear me say those lines. I'd be like, okay, this is about material changes to the property. So if there's a fire or you start cooking methamphetamine, like, you know, like it's kind of funny. Like I make it pretty funny. And there's this section about how people have to understand that I'm not a lawyer. Okay. And I can't give legal advice.
Right.
So the line that I use is like, hey guys, I need you to understand that I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you when I need you to get a lawyer. And if you need to get a lawyer, chances are I need to get a lawyer. So I'll be letting you know if you need to get a lawyer. Like that's like the line, right? And it just lets people know that, like, and they're like, oh, when would that happen? I'm like, well, if it didn't complete, the chance of you needing somebody ahead of completion is like 0.001% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. It like basically never happens. It's never happened in my career. Okay, so that's what you say. You say it out loud and you say, hey, look, like this isn't really like what happens, but if it did happen, like, you know, there's solutions, you know, but like we just no one ever has to explore them or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
because it's such a rare occurrence.
It's such a rare occurrence. And so the funny thing about it is that it's funny until it's not funny anymore.
Totally.
It's funny until it's suddenly unfunny, because it's like, oh,
You're like, this would never happen, though.
yeah.
Until it does.
So, Jer, I gotta ask, like, you're in photography, film, video, all that kind of stuff. Like, there's only so many things that can go wrong, I imagine. Do you go over paperwork? Do you go over kind of what can go wrong legally, or worst case scenario? Like, what would be the worst case scenario for you? Like, I always hear about like people who are like, oh, I shot a wedding and then the memory card wasn't in the camera. Blah.
Yeah.
Like, that would be like what's a bad day in your industry?
So, well, memory card loss or corruption is actually a huge one.
I bet.
Oh.
And there is insurance for that because you can get sued as
Oh.
the filmmaker if you don't properly back stuff up.
Oh, okay.
Can't complete on a contract. It's similar. We worked with they were a law firm in Hawaii. And it was contract based. So if we were unable to fulfill our contract
Meet the deadlines.
to meet the deadlines, and it was about an injury case, so
Mhm.
it was like Canadian residents got hurt and lawsuits happening, and so we were providing some video, and time was of the essence, so we had to film something with these clients in a specific time, and if we hadn't followed through, we can get sued. So
Wow.
and memory card loss is a part of that as well. So if we did film it and then lost all the data, we can get sued.
Have to do it. I'm so sorry. Have you ever lost?
White Cloud has lost data.
Okay.
I have never personally, and it
Okay.
has never escalated to the point of a lawsuit.
Of course.
It's only gone as far as losing clients.
Okay.
Um,
And that's just
Which,
human
fair
error.
enough.
Correct me if I'm wrong, right? It just comes down to human error. It's just,
human error.
Yeah.
It's like one of our staff was moving data.
Mhm.
2 clips went
Sure.
missing.
Yeah.
We thought everything was backed up,
Yep.
and it wasn't.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
and it happens.
yeah.
Then you go, hey, team, new policy.
It's totally.
Yeah.
And no,
or
that
hey, we're
was
going to
even.
reshoot it or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, that was even with policy. So we had the data stored in 2 places, but when we're kind of done, we just put it onto a NAS drive,
Yeah.
which is online storage, and so we don't know if there was an internet issue while it was all transferring.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's one case. One of the ones that I actually talk about the most is probably music licensing, and you can get sued big time
Right.
for improper use of music, and people never think it's a big deal, and they're like, oh no, let's just use this song and see
I
what
really
happens.
want it to go to this AC/DC song while I'm going through
Right.
the house.
You're like, cool.
They have
Sued.
big lawyers.
Yeah.
It totally. And I just straight up don't do it. So
Yeah.
I have lost work because of that. Don't care. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
worth getting sued.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who, she's a filmmaker. She used a song while she was under contract with a client, and it was licensed a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And she just added it to her library. When that contract was done, a little while later, she's going through her library and is like, this is a great song for this. It gets found by the owner of the music,
Oh.
and she got sued and it was pay per play. So they went and found every
Oh.
time
Oh.
that video had been
Ouch.
played, and she got sued, and she lost basically every penny she made in that calendar year because of that
Wow.
lawsuit.
Over a
So I just
song.
don't do it.
That's
Yep.
a bad day.
That's a bad day.
That's a
That's
bad
bad day.
Yeah, that is a very, very bad day.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I had to ask
Yeah.
Mhm.
because, what's a bad day in your industry, right? Everyone has a bad day, and if you're listening and you're not a realtor, you just got to think about what's a bad day, because that could be your worst nightmare at work,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. But that
Like-
involves money too.
Oh yeah. What's the fallout? What's the fallout? That's what
Totally.
it comes down to. What is the fallout?
Absolutely.
Is it all just reputation? Is it money? Is it what is the fallout? So, here comes the horror part of this podcast. Okay. As an agent, my phone rang, and the realtor on the other end of the deal that I had done says to me, Christy, we have a problem. Now, I sometimes have realtors say that kind of thing to me, and I'm
Mhm.
just really lay it on me because been in the industry for a while and I've seen some stuff. So it's I've never not had the worst case scenario happen.
Mhm.
Because again, let's look at the percentages of deals. If you're doing, I'm doing easily 35 to 50 deals a year, and the worst case scenarios never happen.
Right.
And we're talking years, years and years and years and years and years of real estate. And he just said, hey, we're supposed to complete at the end of the month, but the buyer for my clients, property has walked away. So that means my clients will be unable to purchase your home for sale. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, I feel uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's so uncomfortable. And so this buyer of their property literally cannot come up with the funds to purchase their home, which means they don't have the funds to purchase our home that we
Right.
have for sale.
It's a domino effect.
My guys have purchased
Huge.
elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Those guys have purchased elsewhere.
Yeah.
So now
Oh
we got
my
5
gosh.
homes. We have 5 homes in the mix here. Okay. 5 homes in the mix. And he calls and says, we got a problem. Now, 99.999% of the time, everything works out.
Right.
Someone comes up with the funds,
Yeah.
right? Like they
11th
come
hour,
up with
it
the
gets
funds.
sorted.
They got a family member that
Yep.
bails them out.
Somebody
or
co-signs.
They figures it
Totally.
out.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
right?
Different lending options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, you can only get so excited because it generally works out, right? It's pretty fine. So Sheila, you're a licensed agent. I think you were in the room with me when I got that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty calm on the phone because I thrive in chaos a little bit. So I was like, okay, so slow it down, you know? And I told you what
Yeah.
was going on. How did that feel to hear?
I felt sick to my stomach. Like a ball of lead just kind of settles in your gut, and it's not even your home. Like,
Right.
we're just the agents, and I'm like, I felt sick to my stomach.
Sheila's an empath.
Yeah.
One of her core values is like kindness and empathy.
Yeah. I'm like, this is an unkind situation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I then have to call my clients because legally
You have to.
the next step is you have to inform your clients of all things
Mm-hmm.
regarding their deal, especially if it can go legal. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing is to call them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheila, you don't like giving people bad information.
No.
For those who are not watching, Sheila has just crossed her arms at the table
Squirmed.
and she's squirming like crazy.
Hate it.
She doesn't
No, thank you.
She doesn't like giving the bad
No.
info.
No.
And I had to call them. And I literally called and I got a rule with my clients, right? If I email you, cool, it's not that urgent. If I text message you, get back to me in a timely manner. If I call you, pick up your phone.
Right.
Okay? So if I call you, you pick up your phone. Like, this is important. You pick up your phone. I'm not calling you for fun. I'm not going to call you and be like, hey, you got any referrals? Like I'm not
We don't
that
do
guy.
that.
No,
Yeah.
no offense to everyone. But
Yeah.
this is not me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I called my client and I said, hey, do you remember when I told you about the 0.0001% of something happening and me telling you when you need to get a lawyer? Remember that? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, this is uncomfortably close to that. I'm not saying that has happened. We're not there yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's as close to that as you can be.
Because
And
this is essentially like a heads up. Hey, in a few weeks,
it's coming.
This is coming.
Right.
Some people don't get a heads up
Yeah.
Right.
at all.
We got a heads up. We got a heads up by 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
So when they
Yeah.
called,
They were like at
they
the
said
end of the
at
month,
end of the month.
when
I didn't
we're
know if
supposed
it
to
was
complete.
days or
This is a month.
okay.
So now I got a call and then they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, we got to get your lawyer on the phone.
Yeah.
Like we got to, and I said, you need to call your lawyer and give your lawyer permission to talk to me about your deal. You got to put it
Yeah.
in writing
Right.
to them because they're not going to talk to me otherwise. Right.
Right,
Like,
right.
like everyone thinks like, oh, the lawyers work with the realtors. They don't. Like we don't
Mhm.
talk
Right.
unless there's permission given because of confidentiality rules. It's like
Yeah.
lawyer 101, you
Yeah.
don't talk to anybody who you don't have permission to talk to
Yeah.
basically.
We're not their client. It's the other people.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I get on the phone to this guy's lawyer and the lawyer, like, he doesn't get it. He's like, okay, yeah, okay. Okay. So nothing's happened yet. And I'm like, no, nothing's happened, man. But like, obviously you're going to have to know.
Yeah.
You're going to have to know because this is coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, like, nothing's happened yet. So there's not really much I can do. I'm like, I understand that, dude. But like,
Which also feels uncomfortable.
so uncomfortable.
Because
You do a pretty good lawyer impression.
Thank you.
because in my mind
That's
this
what I
happens-
would have been.
This happens so rarely, but I think I'm like, okay, you get the lawyer on the phone and then it's just like the shows, like they figure it out. They
Right.
sort it out.
Yeah, Ari Gold is screaming into the telephone.
Yes.
At Lloyd.
Yeah.
Or like what's his name on Suits, you know?
Suits.
He
Yeah,
like
yeah.
springs into action and he's, reads a piece of paper
Yeah.
and he's like,
Figures
well,
out
this
his
tells
case.
me such and such. He knows everything about that piece of paper. He
Yeah.
looked at it for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
exactly.
I think that's what I was secretly hoping for. So when they were just like, oh, nothing's happened yet, so now we wait. And I was like, what do you mean we wait?
Yeah.
Right.
Why?
So, Jeremy, as our everyday man, I got to ask you, like, how do you feel when you're delivering like bad news? Some people are okay to do it. Some people aren't.
It's so I am an empathetic person as well. So I by nature don't like delivering bad news, but like it was a skill that I had to learn.
Yeah.
Right. So I do it and I think I'm good at it, but it's not like something natural to me. I had to like work at, okay, how am I going to talk to this person about
Right.
this? But yeah, no, it still makes me squirm, but I'm fine picking up my phone now if I have to. I don't put it off for weeks
Yeah.
type thing. Yeah.
So imagine that you're the homeowner that I've called and I've said, hey, Jer, you know how you and your family plan on moving at the end of the month? The buyers can't come up with the funds. Their purchaser for their home that they just sold can't complete. They can't get a mortgage. Mortgage
Yeah.
said no.
Yeah. So there's people, they want to buy your home.
They
They
want
want to move into your home.
Yeah, the people that sold. Okay, so
It's weird because
Right?
it's not even like
it's not your buyer's fault.
they want your home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want it
It's the people at the front of the domino
at the front of the line.
train.
So-
And
Yeah.
and it was just a mortgage issue. It wasn't them just being like, actually we don't want it. Or is that what they were saying?
Mortgage.
Mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
And you've already bought something.
That's what stresses me out
Yeah.
in this situation. So if I think about, okay, we have this money coming in, so therefore we can purchase this home.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like, man, packing up your house and getting ready to move with a family sucks.
It's
Yeah.
very stressful.
And so if you add that into the mix, oh, I'm not going to be having a good time.
No.
No.
But I would have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So the lawyer says nothing's happened.
Good to know. We'll make a note.
So what is everyone just putting a
So
like limbo?
that's how
then?
uncomfortable this is. Can you
Yeah.
feel how uncomfortable this is?
Yeah, I feel it.
It's
Yeah.
so uncomfortable.
You're like, what's the answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I have to
And I actually feel terrible about the people that I'm affecting now.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've already moved.
Right? Like that's part of it. Like
Yeah.
it's
They
like,
paid
oh,
for
this
the next
house that
one.
I loved.
100%.
Yeah. You have a legal responsibility to purchase that home.
You're contractually
Right.
obligated to purchase that home.
And it's a super weird feeling because it's nothing I've done.
And
No.
they have your deposit money, by the way.
Right.
And the people who bought your home, they really want to buy your home. Like that's where they thought they were going to raise their kid and
Right.
Yeah.
start their family. That was their dream home.
And it's not like everyone in the line can just go, okay, just kidding. We'll try again. No.
Especially in a market that's not moving quickly. What do you do?
Totally.
This is like one of my top probably 3 to 4 worst transactions of my career. This is like, I'm really, really thankful it happened in, my 10 or, I don't know if it's my 10th or 11th year in the business, but I'm really happy that I have 10 years behind me because I can't imagine this happening to a realtor that hasn't been in the industry.
Imagine
Right.
this being one of your first transactions.
I don't
Oh.
even know. Like you'd probably quit. You'd
You'd
probably,
probably
be
quit.
You'd be done.
You're
Would
like-
be done.
Well, you
Wouldn't
would be
make it.
done. You
Yeah.
would be done, actually.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, but you would be done. You'd be done.
Yeah.
My gosh. I
So-
have to know the end of the story.
Ah,
We'll get there.
that's part of the uncomfortable part of this podcast.
Oh, man.
So I had to call the next agent in the line. They're on vacation. Imagine being on vacation, being like, oh, P.S., you know how your clients are moving? Yeah. So they won't actually have the funds because we can't complete on your home because our buyers, their deal fell apart. So it's like, so
my
having this
gosh.
conversation, you're trying to explain it. You're like, hey, so there's, buyer A who wanted to purchase house B. House B wanted to purchase your house. So your house is C, and C purchased D, and D purchased E. But
Right.
A can't complete. So that means B cannot buy your house. So that means if your house C, you can't purchase D, and D can't purchase E. Okay.
Right.
So like you're smack in the middle of a train of houses. You're contractually obligated to purchase the next home. You can't buy the next house without the funds from your sale.
Right.
So I have to call the next guy. And he's like, hey, I'm just an agent covering it. I'm like, great, sit down, because you're gonna need to sit down for this one. And I'm telling him the story, and he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel sick, and this isn't even my client. This is this guy saying to me on the
This
phone.
poor guy's covering,
He's covering.
Yes.
and he has to deal with this
Yes.
now.
Yes.
So I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I'm like, hey, like, I don't know. But this is the deal. So, your agent's in Mexico, get her to call me. Like, it's,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh my gosh. But does everyone just sue each other?
great question.
Like, does everyone's lawyer just be like, well, you have to sue so and so?
What if
And
the
then
house
they have
price
to
goes
sue-
down? That is damages too.
Right.
And how quickly do things go through the court system?
Years.
Years.
This sucks, man.
It's so bad. It's so
Yeah.
bad. This is why I'm
So
saying this is the
bad.
Yeah.
worst situation you can go through.
Yeah.
This is the worst situation you can go through.
Yeah. Because say everyone sues each other and it all goes through and there's damages and everything else. Well, lawyer fees alone over 3 years.
And nobody wins.
100%.
Nobody wins.
And nobody wins.
No. Nope.
This is why we have to get Jeremy a beer after this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Needs something stronger than a beer.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm basically delivering this news, and I was so fortunate. I was dealing with a freaking rock star agent on the like the guy whose deal was falling apart. The guy that called me and said, "Chrissy, I got some bad news." He was the most transparent person. He let me know everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now the buyer that he was dealing with on his property, the one that said that wouldn't complete, that agent ghosted him. Okay.
Just stopped.
Just stop
Oh.
communicating.
Yeah.
So he can't communicate with the realtor. Okay, that buyer's not completing. He's trying to tell me, hey guys, like we can't complete on your house. Like he's showing me like, hey, listen, look, this is my conversation. This is what we're doing. The
Yeah.
lawyer's doing a letter of demand. We're going to give them 72 hours to respond. Okay, we're going to do 24 hours. Okay, it's 12 hours. Letters
my
of demand are going
gosh.
out. They're going
Yeah.
out to the realtor. They're going out to now the buyers. Their buyers are angry. They want to sue the realtor. They want to sue the person. They want to sue everybody. And there's the deposit in the balance. Well, they can't take the deposit unless it's mutually agreed upon. And that buyer says, well, listen, as long as you forgive me from all other liability, you can have my deposit. But other than that, I'm not going to release it to you.
Yeah.
So they want to be wiped clean of all responsibility from screwing basically everybody else in this scenario.
Yep.
Right.
So
So
they're
they'll-
like minimum 6 families
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've affected.
Like, sure, you can take my 50 grand, but you can't come after me for any other reaction in the chain.
yeah. Because house C and D and E, they can't sue the first person.
No, you can only sue the direct party that's influencing you. So you
Yeah.
think,
Right. So whoever you're in contract with
Yeah.
is who you can sue.
correct.
Yeah.
But nothing.
Nobody ahead.
And they want to
Or
be wiped
behind.
clean of all responsibility in order
Yeah.
to get their deposit that's held in trust.
Yeah.
And you need 2 people to agree to release those funds. It doesn't just automatically go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, no, you can't have it unless you agree to let me go of all other liability.
Yeah. All encompassing.
Agent
you can
is
never come after me for any money.
Ghosted.
Oh my god.
Now, the prediction is that this realtor, and if you're listening, you know who you are. This realtor, the prediction is that they got them into a bad mortgage. Said, oh, yeah, buy this house, buy it. We're going to set you up with financing. Don't worry about it. We'll get
Mhm.
your family members involved.
Right.
And it just didn't come together. And that's probably why the agent wasn't responding.
Right.
So my rock star guy that's dealing with my house, he goes, we're going to try to get this done for you. We're going to try to sell the house again. Cause there's a month, right?
Mhm.
There's a month. There's enough
You
time
have
to get it
4
relisted.
weeks.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You can't relist the house unless the lawyer gives you permission to do it. You can't list the house unless you release the party.
Right.
You can't relist it unless you suddenly make all those decisions in a snap. And then what? You're going to try to complete in 2 weeks? It's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible to complete that quickly. And then what happens if it goes down? So then they're going to take a loss because they're going to try to fire sale it in order to come up with enough funds
Right.
to buy your house. And your house has to buy the next house, and the next house is moving out.
Mm-hmm. And then you think, well, maybe they can get bridge financing. But you can't
Nuh-uh.
because there's no offer.
You can't get
It
you can't get
collapsed.
bridge financing on a home that's not sold.
Totally.
Yep.
We're talking about like young families
Yeah.
with kids
gosh.
expecting to move.
It's and not just like a lot of families, if their deposit's gone,
That's everything
screws
they
them.
had.
It's everything they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like this, I feel this on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Basically, everybody is a victim. So like my clients, you know, they could be really mad at the buyers for not being able to buy, but is it their fault? No.
Totally.
And then the people that they're buying from
Could be mad at them.
could be mad at them. But is it their fault? No. So you're like in this like, sorry for my language, this like shit sandwich basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
and no one's getting to move, and your house is packed up. So there's only a few ways to clean up the situation.
It's like
Please
house
enlighten me.
purgatory.
And the crazy thing about this episode is that we're not going to tell you how it ends.
Oh.
And the reason why we're doing that is because it's so unsatisfying and it is so damaging and it is so ridiculous that we want to make sure that when you listen to this podcast, you leave understanding how uncomfortable this situation is for everybody. So here's the choices. Magical door number A. Number A. Letter A.
Letter
number 1.
D.
Letter D.
Yeah.
Number P.
Yeah.
The first door is that everybody sues each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. So that means everybody stays put in their house. Nobody moves. You can't resell that house because it is going to go to court. You can
Right.
sue for a deposit. You can sue for damages, and it's going to get tied up into a court system. The person in
Right.
front of you is going to turn around and sue you for everything as well. Okay. So that's when shit slides downhill, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And we're not talking, that's not a quick process. It takes months. Okay. It takes months. Our court system is not set up to benefit people. Okay. And we're talking major money. So it's not like, oh, small claims, submit it
No.
online,
No.
get it approved in 24 hours. Like this is going to take months.
Right.
You can send as many letters of demand and everything that a lawyer can send, but ultimately you can't squeeze blood from a stone. So even if they were to get the suing down the line to the original purchaser, if they don't have the money, nobody wins.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You
Okay.
can still like win your case, get a judgment, but if there's no money, you don't see anything from it.
Right.
Or door number 2, you set up private financing. Somebody sets it up. Somebody along that line and chain of houses sets up private financing, B lenders, D lenders, high
Right.
interest rate. It costs you, $25K to set up, costs you $500 in interest every day until the house completes, until the house sells, until one of the house sells.
Yeah.
So you're racking up, a month is
Thousands.
going to be 40 grand,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
40 grand a month. You could turn around and try to sell. You're going to take a loss. And then
Yeah.
you still have to bridge. So if you do get a contract accepted, you will eventually get to buy. You will probably lose your deposit. It's not a good situation. You could absolutely lose your deposit and then try to recoup the cost from the B lender or D lender or C lender if you can. Magic door number 3 is that you get somebody that'll help you buy it. Find somebody else that could help you buy. So even if
Right.
you haven't sold, maybe somebody cuts the head off of the snake, gets a friend,
Right.
right? Find somebody with good credit, a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Yep.
Pay them back.
Yeah.
How many people have family members that can do that? Right? Magical door number 3 is that somebody injects money into the system.
Right.
Yeah. Jeremy, I got a question to ask you.
Yeah.
How many times have you paid somebody else to work? How many times have you handed over your paycheck to somebody you're working with?
Like, in what sense? Like, in what sense?
Like you're gifting them the money.
Like you did a job.
They're taking a loss for their business. Say you shot a commercial for somebody
right.
and you spent all that time editing and you did all that work, you know, but that commercial, for some reason, cost them a lot of money, maybe reputational damage. Something happened. They got sued.
Right.
And you just handed them over your entire paycheck. How many times have you done that?
Absolutely 0 times.
So just imagine if you're a dentist, a doctor, a police officer, a vet, maybe you work for the government, whatever. Imagine that you're in a situation and you're working with another party outside of your transaction. You're working with a client. And you work with them on a project and you're expecting to get paid. And you turn around and you give them all of the money that you were to make in order to stop the bleeding. The best instance I can think of is we work with a lot of police officers. So imagine that suddenly you're working a bunch of overtime to solve a homicide and then you turn around and give all that money that you would have made to the victim's family.
Right.
Okay? That's what that would be like. How many people, I want you to think right now, if you're listening, would you do that? We're talking massive dollars here. We're not talking like, it's not like, oh, it's $500. Like, okay,
Totally.
$500. But we're talking like, maybe it's 30 grand. Maybe it's 40 grand.
Right. Which for a lot of people is like life-changing money.
It's huge money. Doesn't matter who you are.
Totally.
So there's a couple doors there, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? What do you do?
What's the right answer?
What's the right answer? And the reason why we're not going to tell you how this was solved is because there is no right answer. The answer is whatever the client wants to do, how they want to proceed.
Right.
You know, everybody's situation is different and there's no 2 ways to conclude this. But I can tell you that it was one of my top 3 worst moments in my career.
Yeah.
It's one of my top 3 worst.
Yeah.
I was so grateful for the realtor that I was working with. When he sent me a gift card after the transaction was done, I almost cried because it was a shimmer of gratefulness
Yeah.
for having to get through that.
Oh my gosh.
So, on that note, I hope I have left you uncomfortable. I hope I have given you nightmares.
Yeah.
Our core values are integrity, where you do the right thing, honesty, where you deliver the facts, and protection, which in this instance, I could not protect my clients. In fact, in the top 3 situations of me being very uncomfortable in my career, it's when I couldn't protect my clients. I couldn't do it. I couldn't protect my clients from this. And when I had to call them and be like, you know, the 0.001%, yeah, this is happening to you. It's like getting diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Is it supposed to make you feel better?
Totally.
Because it's rare?
Yeah.
Like, lucky me,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Uncool. What I can tell you is that the situation was concluded.
Okay.
And everybody lived happily ever after.
Happily?
Happily ever after.
Okay.
Well, somewhat happily.
Somewhat happily.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Christy Massero and Sheila Maychek.